Eli Adams writes an emergency preparedness blog. It's called Outdoor Survival Gear and Preparedness, where he nerds out about emergency preparedness. So, what's the one word reason that he prepares? Is it? I mean, we've all heard the recent money or the trial recently. Is it money? Is it power? Is it? Well, I'll not mention the third one. But like most people, he got into preparedness specifically so he could do it for one reason. Is the word fear? No, it's not fear. The word is love. Eli does this because he loves his family and he loves those around him. He wants us to be prepared in case we experience an emergency situation. And he recommends that you do the same thing. You will inevitably prepare better long term if you do it out of love for those around you. Close quote. That's Eli's quote. As an avid outdoorsman, he loves going to the mountains and practicing his preparedness skills. He also loves long romantic walks along the beach at sunset, cuddly puppies, exploding kittens. But nothing makes him happier than taking his family to the great outdoors. Eli.
All right, thank you. I do like long walks on the beach. There's not a lot of beaches around here, though.
Well, if that earthquake happens, we will have a beach.
We'll have new beaches, right? Yeah, that'll be great. Well, welcome everybody. Thanks for coming to this class. There's a lot of other classes going on, and I don't know if I would have picked mine, so thanks for coming to this one. Mine will be a little bit less exciting than the last one. I don't have any predictions or anything. We can try. Maybe we can just predict some stuff in this class. But let me tell you a little bit about myself, and then we can kind of jump into the presentation, which we're going to talk about family preparedness plans. So what I do to prepare my family, what I recommend that everybody does to prepare their families. That's what we'll go through. So who is Eli? So I'm an outdoor advocate. I love camping, love being outdoors. I use camping as an excuse to spend a lot of money on emergency preparedness stuff. So just if you need an excuse, you just love camping. That's the reason. An experienced prepper. I'm not a doomsday prepper. I like to call myself a practical prepper. I'm prepared to take care of my family if the time comes, but I don't think we're going to be invaded by aliens or anything too crazy like that, at least anytime soon. I'm an educator. I love to teach classes. I've had an emergency preparedness calling for 15 years, and I enjoy it. I enjoy teaching. I enjoy writing on my blog. And helping families become more prepared. And my reason why, the love, is for my family. So a little over a decade ago, I was visiting with my family, a big town named Scipio. Raise your hand if you know Scipio. It's huge, like 200 people there. It's about an hour and a half south of here. And right when you pass Scipio, you go up a really big summit, and then you go on to like Fillmore and Beaver and those areas out there. I was talking to my mom and dad, and somebody was going up the Scipio summit, and they had rolled their car into the power station, and it took out power for about 3 days in Scipio, and this was during the wintertime. And we were pregnant with our first kid, and my parents were telling me how they bought the house, they built in a wood stove. They have a generator that they were able to plug into the house to use, other facilities and stuff like that. But they were telling me how down the street a few days later, there was an older couple that wasn't as prepared. And they should have known to ask their neighbors and talk and stuff, but they didn't. And so what they ended up doing is cuddling to stay warm and just using blankets. And they ended up having cans of like beans and corn and stuff, but their can opener was electric, so they couldn't use it. So they had to use a knife. They're like in their 70s using a knife to cut open food. And they made it through and they were fine. But my wife and I sort of had a realization, okay, we have a baby coming and we don't know how to take care of this baby. So what do we do? And so I reached out to one of my friends who had done some preparedness in the past, and I was like, where do we start? And so he took me to a few like conventions at like UVU and stuff to see what were in 72-hour kits and all that. And so we sort of started preparing little by little. We bought a 72-hour kit 1 month. What we did is we set a budget, and a certain amount, I think it started out at $25 a month. And so if a 72-hour kit cost $100, we had to wait 4 months to buy that kit, right? And so then we bought a 72-hour kit, and then we bought some water. And then as the years progressed and we became a little bit more financially stable, or we got taxes back, or Black Friday happened. You know, Black Friday always has great deals, 50% off in different areas. And so we would take some of that money we'd been saving and we started loading up there. And once we got our food and our water, then we started expanding into more camping stuff, more shelter. And then, you know, there's different levels that you can grow into. I think we'll talk about some of them here. Some of the funner ones are where you look at like entertainment or candy and food, or like sweets and stuff. A lot, like when you start your emergency preparedness journey, you don't go out and buy a bunch of candy. That's not where you start, right? But if something like an earthquake, like the last class happens, and you have, you know, a month or 3 months without being able to go to Walmart or to 7-Eleven to get your Big Gulp, you may need some sugar to hold yourself over. So it's fun to get into some of those different conversations. So let's jump in. We're going to talk about what the hopeful outcome of what I'm going to present on today is that we're going to have a better awareness and understanding of how to prepare for our families. I want you guys, I have an action plan at the end. I want you guys to set a goal, create a personalized family plan for a few different scenarios that we'll talk through, and then commit it to regular practice, which I'll explain why that's important. Enhance family and safety resilience as well as community resilience. So the reason I put community resilience is because over the years being in an emergency preparedness calling, it's easy to see. We've done lots of surveys. I've done lots of audits for people and stuff. And when people, like if I were to just go to one of you and say, how much food storage do you think you have? Most people have never done an audit. And they just think with what they have in their cupboards, they can live for 3 months. And then I say, let's just go check. And we go write it down. It's like, you have like a week's worth of food unless you want to eat flour and water. Like, it's just not enough, right? And so people are a little bit more optimistic when they take the surveys of how much they actually think they have until you do an audit. And so what's nice as a community is that if you know your neighbor's prepared and all of your neighborhood is prepared, if you don't want to be the only one prepared in the neighborhood is what I'm trying to say, right? Because then if something happens, that puts a strain on you. So you want to make sure that your neighborhood is also prepared so that you can work together and get through some of those tough times. And ultimately, it's going to give you a peace of mind if you're prepared as well. Do I have until 1:45, or are we cutting early?
I am going to check.
I think that's what she said, right?
Okay.
Okay.
Push back 15 minutes.
Okay. So I have a handful of slides, but I'd love it to be a conversation. If you want to stop me and we can talk, we can take it in a different direction. So just let me know. So this is a little bit messy, but I was trying to build this out and trying to make it visually simple, and there were just too many visuals in it. So even though this is a little bit messy, it still gets the point across. So when you're putting together a family preparedness plan, you have to think of at least 4 different things. Outside of the basics, like you need food and water, that, right? But there are certain things people forget about too. So what season are you in? So if you create a family emergency plan for the summer, when your kids are all at home, does it work during the winter when it's cold and your kids are at school? It's different, right? So you have to think of what season you're in, what kind of temperatures they're going to be, what type of disaster. Is it going to be an earthquake, a flood, an active shooter, a pandemic, whatever it is? There are different scenarios to look at. Where is your family going to be? He brought this up in there too. Like, where would you want to be? Do you want to be in the church? Are you on vacation? Are you everybody's at work and at school? There's different scenarios. If an earthquake happens and your kids are at school, what's the plan to get a hold of them? What's the plan to get them home? If you're at work and your spouse is at home, or vice versa, or if it's a Saturday and you're all at home, it might be easier, but you have to think through some of those different scenarios. Because if you only plan for the easiest thing, like it's going to happen Saturday morning after breakfast, we're all going to be, and we're home, we've already said our prayers, like it just doesn't work that way, right? And then do you have any special needs? In the plans, a lot of times I've seen people prepare for just very high level normal stuff. But if you have elderly, if you have babies that maybe need formula or diapers, any other special needs, pets have needs, right? Like if you're only buying your pet food as it runs out and there's a disaster, you're going to have to share your food with your pet or make some tough decisions with that pet. So hopefully you can consider, I didn't mean eat it, like someone laughed. I was thinking like, you guys are gross. Come on. Depends on, I guess it depends on the pet. We have fish, but they're like this big, so I don't know. Okay. I heard somebody laugh, so somebody was thinking it. Okay, so the overview of what we're going to talk about, the importance of practicing your plan, what emergencies to plan for, how long to plan in case of an emergency, what not to forget in your plan, items people don't usually think about, and helpful bonus items to add to your plan. Okay, so the importance of practicing your plan. So how many, raise your hand if you know what the DARE program is. Okay, what is it?
Yeah.
Don't do drugs. What did we teach kids or us when we were kids to say?
Just say no.
Just say no. And we practice it, just say no. Why do we do that? I mean, obviously drugs are bad, but there's a deeper reason for that. Okay, so when an emergency happens, so let's say how many of you ever been in an accident or seen an accident and you just freeze and you're like, I don't know what to do, I'm trying to dial 911, but what's the number? Like, you just freeze, right? What happens is that all of the adrenaline goes to the frontal lobe of your brain, which is your decision-making part of your brain. And you can't think, right? But with the DARE program, they say, just say no, just say no. We do fire drills at school, and they do the same thing every single time. In California, my wife said growing up, they did the earthquake drills, and the same thing every time. And the reason is because it takes that decision and puts it into the back part of your brain, so that when the front of your brain gets adrenaline, you already know the answer and you don't have to think. Right? So when you build these plans and you do these protocols with your family, especially with the younger kids, they don't know what to do. Like we've had, in 2020, we had like 3 or 4 earthquakes that we could really feel. Do you guys remember those? Right? My kids, even though they weren't big, my kids freaked out. They didn't know what to do, right? And so we had to go through and practice. If this happens, this is what you do. You're on a bunk bed. Don't jump down. Like we had to go through those different scenarios with them. And so that's why it's very important to create a plan and then practice it multiple times so that it becomes second nature to you and it just goes to the back part of your brain. When you get adrenaline, you don't have to think about it. Okay, I was going to bring up another story, but I don't know if I have time to go through all of it, the stories. What emergencies should we prepare for? I think in this area, so earthquakes, tornadoes. I know that we don't get as many tornadoes, but do you know that like in the last 50 years we've had like 900 tornadoes in Utah? You guys know that? I saw a video, and I don't know if it's true. It's on TikTok, so it has to be true. There was a tornado in the mountains in Colorado with the snow. So like the earth is doing something weird. We just don't know. So maybe it's not like at the top of our list here, but earthquakes, flooding, severe weather, power outages, like severe weather, like we had so much snow, lots of houses flooded, right? So we have to worry about flooding after the snow melts. But a few months ago, and just in our little neighborhood over by the Evans farm, we had like 18 houses where the basements flooded enough for us to go and like sump pump the water out, right? So that's some severe weather. Some power outages, whether it's man-made like the accident that happened in Scipio or something else. Pandemics, hazardous material incidents. I think it was last year where there was the diesel that crashed and it shut down I-15 and people evacuated the surrounding towns and stuff. I guess also the train wreck. Where was that? Somewhere back east or something, right? That was pretty bad. The active shooter, hopefully we don't have that, but it seems like they're on the rise in the United States. And then a cyber attack. What happens if you wake up in the morning and your bank account's drained? Like, what do? You have to think through some of those. And they're scary scenarios, but you have to consider them when you're making your plan. So items people do think about: food, water, first aid kits. Everyone usually has like a few Band-Aids and stuff in your plans. Things that people don't think about: sanitation products, cooking products indoors. So sanitation products, for example, if the power is out or the water's down for 3 days, where do you go to the bathroom? Anybody know? In a bucket, and then what?
What's stuff in there, like to break it down?
What stuff?
All the like tablets that you can put in there that, I mean, I've bought them before. I don't know if that's.
So you have some. No, that's good.
It's an old idea, but.
That's good, right? So if you have extra water, you can use the restroom and you can pour a bucket of water and flush it down. But if water is at risk, you don't want to do that. You don't want to just like dig a hole in the backyard and use it, because then it can seep into the water system later. You need to buy some enzyme. It breaks down the enzymes, and I can't recall off the top of my head what it's called, but just look for enzyme breaker downer. I think it's the actual quote. So, but basically you put it in the bucket and you put the tablets or the powder or whatever the enzyme comes in, and it breaks it down, and then you put it in a bag, and then you can dispose of it later. But so cooking products for indoors. So there's a lot of so Hurricane Katrina, there were hundreds of people who died after the hurricane because they brought their barbecue inside to cook their house, to cook their food. And you have the gases that just killed everyone, right? So you don't bring your barbecue inside. What do you use to cook inside then? If the gas line's broken, you don't have electric gas or electric cooking stuff, what do you do? Butane. Butane can be used inside. It's really cheap. You can buy on like Amazon like the one burner, and you can buy like something like 25 or 26 cans. It looks like aerosol can that's fuel. And with each of those, you can get on high, you can get about 4 hours of burning, and on low, you can get about 6 hours of burning. So you buy one box of like 26 for like $50, and you have like a month of cooking that you can do inside. Right?
Don't bring your Coleman camp stove inside.
Do not. Now, yeah, propane is bad. Now there's like the Coleman ones, the smaller ones. Like if you have like air ventilation through the window and stuff, you can do it there as long as there's ventilation. But if it's wintertime and all of the windows are closed, do not use propane inside of your house.
Where can you store the butane?
You can store it anywhere.
Anywhere?
Yep.
Is it a fire hazard?
I mean, if there's a spark next to it, yeah, but
Would there be a hazard?
so is your car. It has fuel in it, so I mean, it's stored. It's no different than an aerosol can, right? Does that make sense?
Would it be a hazard if you had garage doors up with your grill, like, kind of in your garage type thing?
So you just have to have ventilation, right? So if the garage doors are open and your inside door is closed, I would imagine it's fine to circulate through.
I was gonna say, our neighbor had put their grill stuff in their garage, like after using charcoal and propane and stuff, and it all had gone up into our condo above, and the carbon monoxide went off.
Yeah. Yeah, so I guess it depends on what's above your garage too.
How long does the butane last? How long do you have to cycle through that?
I mean, I've had cans for 15 years and they still work, so I don't. Yeah, I think they're pretty long.
Think about what that off gas is doing to the oxygen. If you
Yeah.
displace the oxygen, you're at risk.
Yeah. Take a note and look up, and I'm not sure if she still sells it. I think she does. Saratoga Jacks. So I think it's saratogajacks.com. She's from Saratoga, and her previous job was preparing law enforcement in Utah for many, many years. And she sells the butane, she sells the little one burners as well, but she invented this, it's sort of like a slow cooker crock pot. It's about this big, and basically what she recommends is that you get all of your stuff boiling and ready to go in the on the butane, and then you pour it into this crock pot that like it seals up, and it doesn't take power. It's a solar cooker is what she calls it, but it doesn't use the sun. It uses the heat from inside and recirculates. And so what she does is she always tells a story about when they like drive to Disneyland, she'll start up like a slow cooker pork, and then she'll put it in there, and she'll put it in, and she'll like seal it up and put it in the car. Because it's sealed, it doesn't smell or anything like that, and they'll stop halfway, and she'll shred it and just put barbecue sauce on it and have a pulled pork sandwich on the way. So like it cooks. So there's ways to make your fuel go further too, but it's a really cool little invention that she has, Saratoga Jacks. Okay, so extra shelter. The shelter, think about if your foundation shifts on, with an earthquake, do you have access to a tent or something you can put in your backyard until you know if it's stable or not? Needed medication. Feminine products is something that people don't think about a lot. We've talked about baby products. Products to keep warm. So again, how do you warm yourself in the house without gas or power? Yeah.
On the medication, I literally ask my doctor once a year for a prescription for antibiotics for this. And they're like, oh, that's a really good idea. I get it every year. So we're able to keep antibiotics. We keep pain meds. We always fill up our pain meds full,
Yep.
and then just hang on to it for a little while. And the other thing I learned was that for some of our cheaper medications, I can get a prescription and then go to Walmart and like I need blood pressure meds, right? And stockpile that while I have it also at another pharmacy with another doctor going through my insurance.
Yeah.
This one I just pay for on my own, but that way we've been able to kind of build up our medication stores.
Yeah. And some of the other more like regulated stuff, what we do is I have kids with ADHD and ODD and a couple things where they require medicine. We take a pill or two out of each of them and put them into an empty one and then just store it downstairs. And so over the year, you have at least like a month's worth. So it's not like cold turkey, if something disastrous happens. But yeah, there are different strategies for sure.
With prescriptions, I had mine mailed from a pharmacy because I lived up north, you can put them on an auto refill, and that's like if they send them to you, and when they're on auto refill, they'll literally like fill them like at 24 days or
Be close. 10 minutes. Okay.
so that you can accumulate like a week more every month. You can
Yeah.
do that too with prescription.
Yeah. Lots of different strategies to do that. Okay, so helpful bonus items to plan for. If the power's out, which in a lot of scenarios that we've faced around here, the power would be out. If there's an earthquake, you're probably not going to have power. So your kids aren't going to have their Game Boys or Nintendo. I don't know. Do we have Game Boys? I can't play my Game Boy anymore. Like, it's devastating. So think of things that are non-electronic. So board games, coloring books, puzzles, non-electronic entertainment, and then again back to candy, flavored drinks. So you can buy like Propel or Gatorade in these flavored drinks. So you're not just drinking just water all the time. Which water is fine. It depends on your current like situation and in your lifestyle, right? If you're having a soda every day, or your kids are having Kool-Aid every day, or something, it edges the anxiety to have some of the normalcy back in your life by having some of the flavors and stuff that you may not constantly buy. Okay, action plan. So what I'm hoping you guys will do is go create a plan for the 4 most likely scenarios that could happen in your family. So think about, what is going to happen, or like what disaster, what season, where all of you are going to be. Think through all 4 of those scenarios I talked about in the beginning, and then create 4 different plans. Education to all family members on the plan. So if I'm at work or on a business trip or whatever, and something happens, does my wife know what to do to take care of things, right? Do my kids know if they're at school? What do they do, right? If you have kids and you haven't got them a Gab watch, very recommended. Y'all heard about Gab watches, Gabb? They're pretty amazing. I can track where my kids are. I can text them. I can call them. And at least knowing their last known location will help me go and find them and take care of them in case of an emergency. Practice a plan before the end of this month. So that's my challenge to you guys. If you can do that, this will be a successful presentation. If you don't, I'll feel like a failure. And then this doesn't have anything to do with the plan, but I want to give you some free hand sanitizer. You can take a picture of this if you want. My brother owns a warehouse up north, and he has 50,000 bottles that he wants to give away for free. He had a seller drop the business and go do something else, and so he has 50,000 bottles of this hand sanitizer. And they They come in cases. I brought one. They're about this big. So he has, in Kaysville, he has a warehouse. You can text him and say, I'll come and pick up a couple dozen. If you want a whole pallet, whatever you want, they're all free, and he has tons. So if you want it, there's your freebie. I don't have candy. I usually throw candy. This is your treat today. Questions?
You had mentioned at the beginning doing audits of supplies and stuff. Do you have information on like what you're looking for in an audit? Is that something I can snag online somewhere? Or?
Yeah. So if you go to outdoorsurvivalgear.com and click on Getting Started, I can't remember what path it is. One of them is the newest path. I have a download of a Google Doc that actually has an audit spreadsheet that you can download and use. And it basically says, here's the food you have, here's how much you should have, here's how much you have left. And it kind of calculates what you have left, right? And so it breaks it into like, here's all your grains, here's all your fats, here's your sugars and stuff like that. Yeah, go ahead.
So I've used a massive Excel spreadsheet to track my food, first aid, security, evacuation planning, shelter, all of it. But I've seen kind of some new apps coming out.
Mm-hmm.
I've been a little reluctant to use the apps because I've lived through major wildfires and earthquakes in California, and you're not getting on your computer, you're not even getting on your phone. So, what have you done to, let's say, document or memorialize this? Are you still using kind of, printing out, hard copies and then having it on the computer, or have you gone to app systems? What are you using?
So it's a good question. I have two different ways that I do it. One is that I do the spreadsheet and then I print it out so that I have it. A lot of my audit is for the now. It's preparing now for something to happen. It's not necessarily when it happens, what do I do? It's to make sure that I have enough to last an X amount of time with my family, right? So that's the main part of the audit. I do have it on one of my old phones that's not connected to the internet. So I have like a Goal Zero charger, so that if I do need to go back and audit it, I can do it electronically through that. I don't need to have internet access or Wi-Fi or anything for that. So that's another scenario, but that's only going to last for so long.
What was that, outdoor what?
outdoorsurvivalgear.com. Yeah. 5 minutes. A few more questions.
Can you show that slide with the 4 quadrants?
Absolutely. Right there.
And are you sharing this deck with like somebody central that can spread it out to all of us?
I can. I don't know. Do you know the plan? We can, for sure. Okay. And then it's also being recorded, so I don't know where that's going to live, but yeah.
Don't look at the camera.
I'm so nervous. What do I do? What other questions? Yeah.
So we have all adult children now, right? They all have their own households. And so doing our regular drills like we used to do when they were all in the house has become a whole lot harder to get them to do drills. So do you do drills with your extended family at all, or with your neighborhood at all? Or are you still just focused on your immediate family?
So in past callings, I've done it with the neighborhood. We've done once a year, we've done drills. I do it. All of my kids are small right now, so a lot of the major drills we'll do with that. But I do extended drills with my immediate family, like my brothers, my siblings, my parents and stuff. And a lot of it is, can we get a hold of each other? And so my brother and I have got a ham radio. All my other brothers think we're just crazy, but that's fine. We'll just text them or figure out how to get to them. But so we figure out, can we get a hold of each other? What's the plan? And they need to know, if this happens, here's where we're going to be and stuff like that. But we're kind of spread across the state from Utah to St. George. And so most immediate is just my family here, and then taking care of my parents in Scipio, which they're pretty good on their own. But yeah. So that also reminds me, from a cybersecurity standpoint, you guys are aware that AI is a pretty big thing right now. There's lots of risks with AI. There's a lot of cool things you can do with AI, but one of the biggest scams, just so you're all aware of, is that there's AI that can repeat your voice. So some of the stories that I've heard is that the scammer will take the voice of, like me, for example, and call my grandpa and say, hey, I'm in trouble, I need help, wire me $10,000 whatever, right? But it sounds like me. So what we've done in my family is we have a specific word that we use and say, okay, tell me that it's you. So it's something similar to that. Or, if something like that's happening, you can say, well, tell me something about your childhood that only you and I would know, or something. But just don't give your money away to your grandkids, is what I'm saying. But just be aware there's lots of different cyber attacks in different ways, and you just need to be prepared. So, okay, I think we're good.
All right.
Okay.
So why did Eli come out here to volunteer his time? Was it for the $10,000 that I'm going to pay him after this? No, it wasn't for money. Why did he come out here? Love for all of us. Let's give him a round of applause.